They said he cracked, that he couldn't handle the heat, that Red Bull was too fast, too brutal, too perfect for Sergio Perez. And for a while, maybe even he believed that. But now the truth is bleeding out, and it's Perez himself who's pulled the pin. After months in silence, after vanishing from the chaos of Formula One, Checo is finally speaking. And he's not pulling punches. His words, sharp, reflective, but also stinging, have peeled back the clean image Red Bull tried so hard to preserve. And, if you listen closely, between the calm tones and the seasoned diplomacy, what Perez just revealed might be the biggest indictment of Red Bull Racing's internal culture since the Ricciardo years. Because this isn't just a farewell speech. This is an exposé. It's just the whole dynamics of the team, Perez told Sky Sports in a recent interview that has already sent shockwaves through the paddock. Obviously, they have a unique talent over there with Max. It's very difficult for the second driver that is there to basically adapt to the car. Boom. Just like that, he dropped the first truth bomb. The very thing fans and insiders have whispered for years. Finally confirmed by the man who lived it. Red Bull's machinery, Checo says, is built for Max Verstappen, and Max alone. But that's just the beginning. It's a very unique car, he added. Very unique driving style that I managed, I'd say, to survive for many years. But it's difficult, and it's the way it works, you know. And you've seen it with great drivers just before my time or even after my time. You hear that? Survive. Not race, not thrive. Survive. That one word tells you everything. What kind of elite team puts its second seat through such fire and then acts surprised when the driver crumbles? The answer? The kind that's chasing dynasties, not fairness. Sergio's voice wasn't bitter. It was tired, but also, just maybe, a little vindicated. Especially now that Red Bull's so-called next-gen talents, Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, are already struggling with the same monster he once tamed. I think Yuki and Liam, they've scored like 5 points or something like that, he said. So it is very, very difficult, very tricky. And they're fantastic drivers, you know, but it's just the way it is to drive it. It's just a very unique driving style. Let's fact check that real quick. It's actually 10 points. 10 points for 2 drivers in the most dominant car of the last 5 years. And we're supposed to believe Checo underperformed. Perez wasn't just airing out old frustrations. He was rewriting the narrative Red Bull never wanted to be questioned. The same narrative that saw him dragged through headlines, mocked on qualifying days, and branded as the weakest link. But his account dives deeper, into the real reason why he struggled. Not just setup issues, not just confidence lapses, something more subtle and more destructive. Sometimes I could cope with it, I could adapt to it, he explained. But as soon as there was a variable with the rain, with the wind or something, it just became undrivable. Undrivable. Let that word settle. Not difficult, not temperamental, undrivable. That's how he described the car given to Max Verstappen's teammate. And what happens when your car betrays you? You overdrive, you panic, you crash, you doubt yourself. And then you start making mistakes one after the other. You are losing confidence, Perez confessed. But mentally, I was super strong, and that's why I survived there for so long, because I did have a lot of pressure and a lot of you guys, journalists, were onto me. And now you realize the job I've done in that car and that team. There it is. The second time he uses that word, survive. But this time, it lands harder, because it's wrapped in something every Formula One fan can relate to. The emotional weight of trying to prove your worth while the whole world doubts you. Make no mistake, Perez isn't seeking pity. He's pulling the curtain back for all of us to see. And now, with a full year out of the cockpit, he finally has the freedom to speak plainly. No PR filters, no internal politics. And it turns out, Cadillac came knocking a lot earlier than we knew. According to Checo, they reached out back in December 2024, before Red Bull even made his departure official. When it became clear that I was going to leave Red Bull, he revealed. Think about that. While Red Bull was still pretending to back him, still smiling in press conferences, the exit door was already being built behind the scenes. And Cadillac? They were waiting. But here's where the story twists. Because despite everything, the early rejection, the public humiliation, the media dogpiling, Checo's next move doesn't sound like revenge. It sounds like rebirth. And what he's about to do next might just flip the grid upside down. It would have been easy for Sergio Perez to disappear, to fade into that long grey line of former drivers who couldn't quite make the leap from good to legendary, who got their chance in a top seat and burned out. But that's not what's happening here, because Perez isn't coming back just to fill the grid. He's not coming back to prove anything. In his own words, "I feel like there's nothing to prove, not just because of the current drivers or the next drivers that were in my seat, but even before that." He's not angry. He's not defensive. He's free. "Now everyone forgets about it," he said. "But it's been a very tricky place to be in, to constantly be adapting, to build confidence mentally. It's a very unique challenge." And now, with Cadillac, that challenge is different. Still brutal, still uncertain, but this time, it's his. To me, it's more of a comeback to enjoy the sport. I want to enjoy the sport that I love, the sport that has given me so much, Checo said. "I couldn't afford to leave the way I left the sport, and this is why I'm coming back with this new project. I hope it's a very successful one. But amongst that, more than anything, I want to enjoy this comeback." Enjoyment. That word doesn't show up often in the Formula One dictionary, especially not for drivers who've been chewed up by the machine. But Perez might be rewriting what a comeback even means. This isn't just about redemption. This is about liberation. And that journey started with something radical for a racing driver: silence. "For me, it was very important to have this time off the sport," he admitted. "Especially because it only became clear towards the end of the year that I was not going to continue with Red Bull. So, instead of jumping into something just for staying on the grid, I needed that time to disconnect from the sport and to understand what I really want next in my career." Disconnected. That's a word we don't associate with athletes who live off adrenaline, off the calendar, off the stopwatch. But Perez did what few dare to do. He stepped back, and in doing so, he found clarity. "It wasn't very clear for me in the beginning," he said, "especially the first couple of months, what I wanted to do next. The more I was talking to the Cadillac team, the more it became apparent that this is what excites me to go back." And what is that exactly? Not just another midfield team, not another Hail Mary shot at podiums. This is a whole project, Perez explained. The dynamic, I feel, is different. Different because for the first time in years, the car isn't being designed for someone else's hands. For the first time, he's not being dropped into someone else's system. He's building one. And even if that means starting at the back of the grid, that's okay. "Sometimes, if your car is competitive, you make it to the podium," he said. "But sometimes you've done a tremendous race and you finish P15. The driver that finishes P15, knowing that he has done the maximum together with the team and that they are progressing, that should be something to feel proud of, watching the sport from the outside." Checo gets it now. The obsession with results? It was never the full picture. The real story, the one fans connect with, is the fight, not the finish line. And the man who once survived a car he called undrivable is now ready to rebuild, brick by brick, from the ground up. So what does this mean for Cadillac? For F1's 2026 season? For Red Bull? Well, here's a wild twist to chew on. Pat Simons, a longtime F1 technical authority and now executive engineering consultant for Cadillac, thinks the next generation of cars, the 2026 regulations, might just be the undoing of the current Red Bull formula. This era of cars that we're currently in with the ground effect cars, it's been tricky, Perez admitted. With Lewis, you've seen it. He's done a tremendous job at Mercedes when they didn't have a competitive car. I think for him at the end of an era to be changing teams and getting to adapt has been tricky. But obviously, it's a fantastic driver, and for sure, he'll figure it out. And then, Checo dropped one final bombshell. We've seen it with many different drivers, he said, that it's all about adapting a car into a driving style, that sometimes it just takes a little bit longer than others. I've done well in the previous eras, so I do expect that the new regulations will suit my style. There it is. He's betting on the rules to flip the deck. He's betting on experience over hype. And in his mind, the real game starts in 2026, not with Max Verstappen, not with Red Bull, but with a blank slate and a new badge, Cadillac. So now the question flips back to us. Was Sergio Perez a victim of circumstance, or a driver who saw the future before anyone else? And more provocatively, did Red Bull build the perfect car for one man, only to sabotage every other driver who dared to challenge the balance?